Hi everybody, welcome to the Knitting Turnpike. Welcome to the Knitting Turnpike. My name is Gina Pike. I'm so happy that you're here today. Today I'm going to be talking about a finished project, a shawl that I just finished. It's called the Love is Shawl. The pattern is by Bev of Boo Knits. I've shown this in a couple of my What Are You Knitting videos, but this today is the finished shawl, and at the end of this video I will show all of the stitches that were used in the making of this shawl, so that you guys can take a look at that and see if this might be something you'd want to make yourself. I promise you the stitches, there are a couple of different ones than the last shawl that I showed you, which makes it fun for me. It's not all the two are the same, but it is not hard if you take it just stitch by stitch. It's definitely doable. So let's get into it. This is the shawl. Finished shawl. It's knitted, it's blocked, and I blocked it really big so that, or heavily blocked it because it was looking pretty small. This is 100% wool yarn. This yarn is Freia, which is F-R-E-I-A, hand painted yarn. I'll put a link in the description box below. This colorway, this is Freia Ombre hand painted yarn bomb. It's 200 grams, 860 yards. I used all of it but 40 grams, so I used like almost 700 yards for this shawl. And it's in the colorway Purl, which is a pale pink gradient. You can see it goes from, it has a little bit darker gradient on the edge starting in. The shawl started right there where that marker is, with a garter stitch tab cast on. And I'm on the back side. Apologize. That's the right side. Where that marker is, that's where the garter stitch tab cast on started. And it goes out from there, and you have a garter stitch edge along the top, which is what makes it look so seamless. You can't even tell where it really started. And then you have all of these beautiful lace yarn overs, and I used a pale pink bead in this, which is just to give it a little bit of a shimmer. Here's the bead right there. That's what they look like, just a little bit of shimmer. This is a Dynamite 6/0 seed bead, and as you can tell, they don't really pop, but when you get up close or the light hits it the right way, it gives a little bit of shimmer, and you can see them all in this border. Very beaded, very lacy. I have made this shawl once before, except I made this shawl before I started my YouTube channel, so you guys just got to see the finished shawl, and you don't also know what the stitches are used, what the stitches were that was used in the making of this shawl. So that's why this video is a little bit different. Here again, this is what it looks like. I will show a little bit of a clip with it pinned out so that I'm not behind it and you're trying to see what the lace looks like. There is a stitch here that I really thought was very interesting. I want to point it out. This stitch here, this is what the stitch looks like. That's called the 7 stitch, and you take one stitch and you make 7 stitches, and it ends up making this fan stitch. There it is again. 1 stitch into 7. It creates that beautiful fan. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to go behind the couch and hold it, and then I will also go outside and hold it a little bit. Maybe I can get a little drape here. That's what it is. That's how big it looks. And I'll put it on my back so you guys can see how far down it goes on my back. So it goes like that. Boo Knits, I have it hanging outside, which is one of my favorite ways to show the shawl, as long as there's not a lot of traffic. As you can see, it's a top-down crescent lace shawl. It started here, garter stitch tab where that marker is, and you can see it's a seamless garter stitch edging. There is lots of little beads here. I used a pale pink, pastel pink bead, a pale pink bead. Kind of matches the yarn. This yarn is 100% wool with fingering weight, which is a little bit thicker than what I normally use. I went up on the needle size when I was making this, just so that it would open up the lace a little bit. Here's what it ended up looking like, and it ends with, it has these beautiful, it goes from this design over and over all the way down to this gorgeous that has leaves with beads, and then these inverted leaves, and then it ends with this gorgeous beaded edging, very beaded edging, and a picot, the very bottom of a picot bind off for days. And you can see this 100% wool still has amazing drape. It's a merino wool, very soft wool. It's not scratchy or itchy. It's a merino soft wool, and this yarn color is Purl, I believe, and it actually does have light pink, and then it started doing a little bit darker pink, like right in here, a little bit of a gradient pink. And if you guys can see that, I didn't see it when I was knitting it. I just kind of noticed it when it was pinned out on the blocking board. I do have a little bit of sunlight coming through there, so I apologize. I would love for a little bit of wind to come through so you guys could see some of the drape on this. But I don't think it's going to blow. It's a little warm today, but that's the drape on it. Still has really great drape. Like I said, I'm used to the bamboo, and this is wool, but I still think it turned out really nice. That one stitch where I was talking about the 7 stitch, this is what it looks like hanging up. There that is, that one stitch becomes 7. You knit that, it's right here. You knit into that stitch 7 times. So you see the one stitch becomes 7 and it fans out. Now we're going to move on to the stitches that were used in making this shawl. Alright, this is the start of my shawl. You have to do a garter stitch tab cast on, which is where you, in this one you cast on 2 stitches, and what you're going to do is you're going to go, you turn your work, it's like this, you turn your work 90 degrees to the right, and then you pick up stitches in each one of these garter ridge. You turn it like that, you put it under both legs of the stitch that you're going into, and you just pick up a stitch like that. And just do it all the length down the length of this knitted piece you created. And that's how you do a garter stitch tab cast on. This is what it looks like after you do the garter stitch tab cast on, pick up the stitches, and do the setup row for this shawl. Alright, here's more stitches, and here's just a simple yarn over. You take this and go over like that. Knit stitch. Another yarn over, knit through the back loop, yarn over, slip, slip, knit through the back loop, both of those stitches together. I will shed in just a little bit. Another knit stitch, another yarn over, knit 2 together. You put your needle in, put through both stitches, the front of both stitches, and knit them together as if you're like that. Knit through the back loop. Yarn over. Slip, slip, knit them together through the back loop. Knit, yarn over. Now we're going to do a slip two together as if they're going to knit. Knit the next stitch. Pass the 2 slip stitches over the knit stitch. Makes a center double decrease or a slip 2 knit past the 2 slip stitches over. Looks like that. I stole a stitch from the next section and put the stitch marker back after I'm done. And then you continue on with the rest of the repeats. And I am doing a stitch. It is called a, on the chart, it is this stitch here. It is, let me show you what it looks like. 3 with an arrow down. And this stitch is a little bit different than the usual 3 stitch. The usual 3 stitch is where you knit yarn over knit into the stitch that's next on the needle. We are going to do knit yarn over knit, but we're going to do something totally different. Okay, now on the previous row we had a beaded stitch. You are going to knit yarn over knit, not into this stitch that's on the needle, but into the stitch that is below the stitch on the needle. So you have to look for the stitch below the stitch on the needle, which is this one right here. So you're not going to knit into the stitch that's on the needle, you're going to knit into the stitch that's below the one on the needle, which is a beaded stitch. So that helps also identify it. You're going into the beaded stitch. So what you're going to do is you stick your needle into that stitch below, do a knit, do not pull anything off of the left hand needle, then do a yarn over, go back into the stitch below, and then do a knit stitch. And that's what that stitch is. You see one stitch has become 3 stitches. You have a knit, yarn over knit, but it is in the stitch below. I'm pulling it pretty hard so you can see how it looks. And when you're done, you just let that stitch slide off the left hand needle, and it's going to drop. You're going to drop the stitch, but you will catch it because you're in the stitch below. And that's what it looks like. It's kind of scary dropping a stitch off of the needle, but it works just fine. Alright, now we're to the beaded stitch. We're going to do a knit yarn over knit in that beaded stitch. So the stitch below, again, it's that one right there. So you put your needle in to that stitch below, knit, yarn over, stitch below, knit. So that's what it looks like before you pull this off the left hand needle. Once you see the 3 stitches you've done, you just let it slide off and it gets caught by that stitch you just did. And that's it. That's all there is to that stitch. Alright, I'm going to show you how to do a stitch it's called 7 on the chart. It is a beaded stitch, so the first thing you have to do is you have to put on a bead, and then you're going to take this one stitch and make 7 stitches out of it. So you're going to knit, yarn over, knit. This is all in the same stitch, so do not pull it off the stitch. Stitch off the left hand needle until you're finished. Yarn over, knit. That's 5. Yarn over. Oops. Knit. And you've taken this one stitch and made 7. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. And that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be like a fan shaped stitch with a bead on it. 1 stitch into 7. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do 4 different increases. I've shown you these before on another shawl, but we're talking about the Love Is shawl. She likes to do these what are called make 1 increases. You can do them make left, make right, make left purl, make right purl. So that's what I'm going to show you. When you do these increases, as you can see, there is a ladder in between the 2 stitches on my needles. You're going to be using the ladder in between those 2 stitches. To make 1 left, you're going to grab that ladder from the front to the back. You're going to knit through where the yarn is the shortest, and the yarn is the shortest in the back. So you're going to knit through the back, and that's called a make left. And as you can see, the stitch leans to the left, which is why it's called a make left. Alright, to undo any of these, you just take it off and pull it like that, and it's undone. To make 1 right, you're going to grab that ladder from the back to the front. So you're going to grab it from the back to the front. The yarn is the shortest in the front, so you knit it through the front. Whoops, you're splitting my yarn there a little bit. You knit it through the front. As you can see, it leans to the right, so it's a make right stitch. Now, you can do these purl-wise, which the stitch is called a make right purl and a make left purl. You're going to just do the same thing you just did, except you purl the stitch instead of knit it. So, again, for the make left, you come from the front to the back. You go through the part where the yarn is the shortest, so through the back a loop. You're going to purl through the back loop like that. And that's a make left purl, and as you can see, it leans to the left. That's what it looks like. Alright, to do a make right purl, you're going to come from back to front. The yarn is the shortest in the front, so you're going to purl through that, just like that. And that's a make right purl, and as you can see, the yarn here leans to the right. And that's what that looks like. And those are those 4 increased stitches that she likes to use on the edges to do the increases for the shawl. And the great thing about those types of increases is that they don't leave a hole. Like when you just add a yarn over to increase the stitch, you will have a hole that looks like this. But when you do the make 1 stitches, which I've been doing over in here, you don't have a hole that goes along the edge. Now we are to the point where let me show you the symbol for this stitch and show you a little bit. I'm going to do this one right here. It's this stitch here. It's called an S2KBF PSSO. It's a mouthful. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to slip 2 stitches together as if you're going to knit them. So that's the slip 2 part of it. You're going to knit into the back and front, which is the KBF part of the next of it. So you knit into the back of the stitch like that. Do not pull it off the left hand needle. Then knit through the front. So that's the next part of the stitch. And then the PSSO is you take the 2 slip stitches and pass them over and off the needle over that stitch where you BF, knit back and front. And that's what it looks like. You still have 2 stitches remaining from that. Would you like to see it again? if you would. Give me a second. Alright, to see it again, you slip 2 stitches as if you're going to knit them together. Then in the next stitch, you knit through the back of the stitch first, and then do not pull it off the left-hand needle. You knit through the front, and then you take those 2 slip stitches and you pass them up and over those 2 stitches you just knit the back and front. And that's what it looks like. The next stitch is the knit purl stitch. It's just KP. It's you're going to take 1 stitch and make it into 2. You're going to knit into a stitch and do not pull it off the left hand needle. Then you're going to bring the yarn forward and you're going to purl into the same stitch. So in essence, your 1 stitch has become 2. It looks like that. Looks like a knit front and back with a little bit of a bump in front of the second stitch. But your 1 stitch has become 2, knit and purl. And then the next stitch is similar to the one we just did. It's called the KBF. And this is where you're going to take 1 stitch and make it into 2. You're going to knit into the back loop of your stitch. And then do not pull it off the left hand needle. And you're going to knit into the front of your stitch. Like that. It looks like that. You have a bump in front of the second loop. Your 1 stitch has become 2. And that's the knit back and front. And those are all the stitches in the shawl. Some of them are a little trickier, but they're not hard. And thank you for watching this stitch tutorial. I appreciate you letting me share this with you. If you are new here, all my videos are mostly about knitting and crochet, sometimes yarn. We would love to have you join us. For those of you who are here time and time again, thank you. You guys are awesome. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Again, thanks for letting me share this finished project with you. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Thank you.